and over 6,000 guided aerial bombs and Ukraine, mostly at civilians. This clearly shows to the world who wants peace and who wants war. Replying to your question, Ukrainian security and European security are indivisible. Indivisible, and today, sorry for my humble opinion, in Ukraine is shaping future of European security, and not only European security, but transatlantic security. And European security matters for Asia, matters for Middle East, matters for Africa. It is directly linked. You also mentioned Helsinki Act, thanks for this, because it is really important to remember that Russia violated 10 principles of Helsinki Act. Also this year we mark 80 years of UN Charter. Why I am telling this? Because it is important that international law should be law, not simply declarations, not simply words. And you see, Ukraine also is an example after 24th of February that this system, international system, is dysfunctional. We are the evidence of this. This system is unjust. We need additional tools of enforcement. We need reforms. We need reforms in UN. We need reforms, by the way, of humanitarian law, of Geneva Convention. We need to update them. Having such atrocities in Ukraine. Now about Ukraine wants peace. We want to end this war this year. But it is important not to manipulate with the term peace, just long-lasting, comprehensive. And you see, I had a lot of conversations yesterday and today with my African counterparts, and I really impressed. Main point of our discussions was peace and also dignity. That's why just and comprehensive peace also means dignity. From how this war will end in Ukraine depends future architecture of security in Europe. Depends future security of every family in Europe. That's why it is fundamentally important to achieve just, long-lasting, comprehensive peace. After Jeddah, we got additional energy and additional opportunities to achieve just peace.
Minister, I want to ask you, I understand that you're laying all this out, and that's very fair, I do understand, but given the current climate, how do you achieve that? How do you achieve a political resolution? How do you achieve a ceasefire, given the stance of the opposing side, not only with the Russians, but also with the American administration?
The recipe is very simple. Engagement and leadership of the United States to raise the price of further aggression for Russian side and to strengthen Ukraine.
Okay. Two? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here in My favorite, or is it just part of the political process?
Both of them. So I would say that first of all, we see the European continent as one area, and politically, yes, and the whole continent should be affirmed as one area where the countries share the common values. Actually, the European Union is an organization, a regional organization for democracy values. First of all, it was also Croatian desire and goal to achieve membership in the European Union, and not only because of that it is a desire of a political establishment, it's because of our citizens, reforms, rule of law. It's something that how is possible just not to this world to stay sustainable. That we need to have rules. The rules we are respecting, mutual respect, and of course respecting everything what is connected. And in this reason, Croatia also respect and support strongly EU enlargement. If you see Ukraine, if Ukraine wants to be a member of the EU, first of all, they have to fulfill some commitments. They should be committed, and when it comes to criteria, benchmark, and so on. Similar to as we did during our negotiation process. Croatia, Slovenia as a former republics of former Yugoslavia. And now you see the Western Balkans. Western Balkans need also to be a part of the European Union. It's logically, first of all, naturally, pragmatically, and something that we can create an area of common values. And Western Balkans countries, of course, they are on the way to achieve it. And Croatia, as also other European member states, are willing to help all these countries. Croatia needs now nothing. We achieved everything when it comes to foreign policy goals. Only OECD membership, but so we are on the way to achieve it also in the spring 2026. But for us, it's of utmost importance our immediate neighborhood, stability and institutional functionality of the neighborhood. Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Montenegro, and so on, all the countries. And Croatia is a vocal proponent of the EU enlargement, but of course not at other costs. They have to fulfill some criteria, merit-based approach, individual achievements, like we did. And so Croatia really worked hard to fulfill all the criteria, but of course, so the hard work does pay off, and so we like also to see Ukraine, to see Moldova, and to see all the countries in the Western Balkans in the European Union. Okay. Croatia can offer expertise and, of course, our experience during the negotiations process.
All right, maybe we can get into that in the next round. Mr. Kounemanipidis, I do have to say, I know that you have a plane to catch, so I want to get you into the conversation as quickly as I can. You've heard both of the ministers, but concerning the war in Ukraine, I'm wondering NATO's perspective in terms of its priorities, in terms of ensuring its political cohesion matches the military adaptation. What is your view and your response?
Thanks very much. And first, it's very good to be here in Turkey, good to be in this panel, and good to be in the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. So many things were said. Let me pick up on a couple of those. First, on the Ukrainian war, it is, as the foreign minister knows, the utmost priority of the organization I represent to continue to support Ukraine. We know what we have to do. It is to double down the efforts in supporting Ukraine, to put the Ukrainians in a position of strength in the negotiations that are being led by our American friends. And we welcome very much that the US administration has decided to lead that process. We hope that a just and long-lasting peace will be soon implemented. And we also have heard Washington being very clear on how Europeans need to step up their efforts, particularly on the security guarantees that the Ukrainians would need, and I applaud very much the efforts by the UK and by the French that we are accompanying, and many other European allies are accompanying. That first. Second, something that is very relevant, particularly for this forum, is the interconnectivity that the foreign minister was mentioning. We see interconnectivity in many examples. I would mention the North Korean soldiers in Kursk, the use of Iranian drones in the Russia war against Ukraine, the impact of the war in food security and energy security worldwide, but particularly in the southern neighborhood that I deal with on a daily basis as special rep for the southern neighborhood of NATO. Also the impact on regional stability of the war in Gaza. So we see lots of connections there, and I think that we need to take all of it into account when we think about European security architecture. And a last word on that. I think we are rethinking the factors of the equation of European security architecture, but I don't think we need to change European security architecture. I think the factors of the equation that had as an outcome transatlantic collective defense should continue to have the same outcome, transatlantic collective defense. But yes, the factor needs to change. We heard very, very clearly the Americans want the Europeans to do more. We've been probably on the best end of the bargain for many decades. The Americans were doing a lot, the Europeans were doing less. Now the Europeans will need to do more, but the Americans will continue to be engaged. We heard that very clearly last week on the Foreign Ministerial, where the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said it very clearly. We have an ironclad commitment with Article 5 and with NATO. We just need Europeans to do more. And it's exactly what we are seeing. It's exactly what Secretary General Rutte has been saying in the last months. And I think it's what the summit in The Hague in a couple of months will be about. How we continue to support Ukraine and how we reinforce the transatlantic bond.
Thank you. Stephen, maybe you want to sort of jump in this conversation. Javier was saying, all right, don't need to change it. The factors may have changed, but the principles don't need to change.
Well, the principles are fundamental, and they're what are at stake here. As Andrii has said, this is not just a situation where we see a complete violation of those principles that were in the Helsinki Final Act, that we all stood by and we have stood by for those 50 years. But it's also the UN Charter here that is fundamentally under threat by Russia's aggression. And of course, this isn't just the aggression that we've seen against Ukraine, it's the other hybrid and destabilizing activities that they prosecute across our continent and against our democracies more generally. And whether that's disruptions, attempted disruptions in the Western Balkans or in Moldova or elsewhere, this has consequences for all of us. And this matters for everybody in this room. It matters for everybody in the room if those principles of territorial integrity and sovereignty are not abided by. And it matters deeply for all of our peoples, most importantly for the people of Ukraine at the moment, but for all of us. I was in Kiev just a few weeks ago, and I could hear in the background here the alarm going off there of a Ukrainian probably in the room with the air raid alarm on their phone, because Ukraine is seeing that escalation every night. Civilians being attacked and killed. I was in Bucha, which saw some of the worst appalling atrocities that we've seen at the start of this conflict, and seeing those mass graves and others, but also hearing about just that night before how drones had come in, killed civilians, and how children and others have been taken away, and still no idea where those young people and those civilians are. That is a brutal attack on the values that all of us in this room stand for. So I think we must absolutely recognise what's at stake here. That's why we as the UK are 100% ironclad support behind Ukraine, not just for now, but for 100 years into the future. It's why we're working with our NATO partners and allies here, and it is a genuine pleasure to be with friends. It's a genuine pleasure to be here in Antalya and to be hosted by our Turkish allies and friends. And it's why we must double down not only on the support for Ukraine, but also for European, Euro-Atlantic security more generally. That's what we're doing. That's the leadership the Prime Minister, President Macron and others are showing, working with President Trump on that secure and sustainable peace for Ukraine, which Ukraine again has come forward with, and yet we do not see that same response from Moscow. And President Erdogan very clearly set out yesterday the importance that peace has to be sustainable. And that's going to come through those of us who are willing to get in there, to put boots on the ground, to get the support to ensure that Ukrainian forces are able to defend, deter against future aggression. But also that we as NATO partners are stepping up, particularly European partners here, for our own defence. That's what we're doing with our spending, and that's what we're doing with our commitments. But this matters not just for us, it matters for the globe, it matters for all of us in this room, because these are fundamental principles that have been attacked here by Moscow.
Thank you, Stephen. Madam Secretary, it matters for everybody in the room. That's what Stephen said. Your country has gone through quite a significant strategic shift recently. Talk to me about that shift from neutrality to membership and how it fits into your vision of European security and the structure.
Thank you for this opportunity. And first of all, it is very easy to agree on what has been already said here before. And Mr. Moderator, thank you all. Thank you for drawing attention already at the outset to the Helsinki principles and to the then CSCE Helsinki in '75 and the fundamental principles that were agreed at that time. And of course, we have UN Charter has been mentioned several times. So of course, that is the foundation for European security. And what is written in the so-called Helsinki Decalogue, the 10 fundamental principles of Helsinki 75, one of them is, of course, the sovereignty of states. And that includes the right of the states to choose their own security arrangements, their own security dimension and direction. So this has been fundamental for Finland during the past years. And as you referred to our rather fresh NATO membership, so this is an illustration of that. So it was very important for us in that very dramatic shift when Russia started its full-scale aggression against Ukraine to try to maximize our own security, so to build up Finland's security. It was not the idea to threaten anybody, not the idea to increase tension, not the idea to somehow make things worse, but as a sovereign state, we thought that it is time for us also to make new decisions. It has been, of course, a long way. Finland was for a long time known as a neutral country, and that was for us a way to balance in a very difficult geopolitical setting during the Cold War. We wouldn't recommend that right away to Ukraine. So that was our model to survive, but I think Ukraine needs to choose its own path and see how it copes in the best possible way in the current circumstances. Actually, Finland already gave up its so-called neutrality when we joined European Union. So after that, we didn't refer to ourselves anymore as a neutral state. We referred to ourselves as a militarily non-aligned state. So we thought that we already chose our side. So we were part of Europe, we were part of the European Union, and that was such a strong political alignment that we wouldn't call ourselves neutral anymore. But then, of course, it was a huge step still to enter a military alliance. It's a very strong commitment from all of us who are part of the alliance. A lot of trust is required, very deep cooperation is required, but of course at this moment of time we really think that this is the place for us to be.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Minister. Deputy Minister Bozay, thank you for your patience representing the host country. Turkey has a unique geographic position. Talk to me about the resilience it can play, but also what European security means for the country.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's good to be the last because you can have inspiration from all the very valuable talks. And I'm not so much used to this earphone. What I feel that we are in a space shuttle and we are having a European mission and we'll go to up there and as a European mission. But this is the time to do so because we are in the three dimensions. We should look at from the fourth dimension. In this panicking, chaotic situation, we should all take ourselves out of this situation and look from a different angle. And when I look from the different angle, I totally agree what distinguished minister mentioned. What we will see if we go up there, we will see that Pandora didn't leave one box in the world. Pandora left several boxes in different places, in Africa, as you mentioned, also in the Middle East, in Caucasia, in the Balkans, and in Ukraine. And when we see these boxes, we should ask the question, we talk about United Nations. United Nations Charter starts with the preamble saying that we, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. So we are not successful. So we should check what went wrong, and the wrong thing is we need to have a holistic approach, and we should have an indivisible security picture. When I look from Turkey's perspective, this is why we would like to have these all arrangements, and we would like to be in all of them. Throughout the history, we were there. When we became the member of the NATO, we were in the NATO missions. When during the post-Cold period, we were in the missions in the Balkans, in Caucasia, in the Middle East. So this indivisibility also shows that Brussels needs Ankara, Ankara needs London, London needs Oslo, Oslo needs Brussels. We can see this picture when we go up. When we say the indivisibility, what is the main dynamics? What are the main dynamics of this? There are two golden principles, actually, that we are concentrated on: non-duplication and non-discrimination. And from European security perspective, when we make it more materialized in the white paper or SAFE document, we need to see a clear picture, inclusion of all the actors, all European actors, including Turkey, UK, Norway. And, you know, this will be the only way that we can have a better system, a deterrence, a system based on deterrence, and also to have some kind of tackling with the existing problems in a collective way. And after generic talks, we should concentrate on how we can have efficient security tools, how we can have the defense industry with joint ventures to go in a very efficient production. And these can be only done with collective work. And we need to use the European pillar of in the NATO without weakening NATO. This is the Turkish understanding from the collective security, and this is our view as a NATO member. And while we are doing so, we would like to have consultations, we would like to have talks, and we were the ones who warned in 2014 that there would be a danger against Ukrainian territorial integrity and sovereignty. It was an early warning from Turkey, but it didn't panic the others, and then we realized we shouldn't make the same mistake. And while we are working on European security altogether, we should have a system. You mentioned about southern flank, because we are on the southern part of that. But this is the security is a collective one, and also anything to be prepared for this collective, all-inclusive approach. This is our tendency, our approach. And when we are having these things, OSCE is an important organization which brings all of us together. And also when we are having permanent structured cooperation like PESCO, this should be also inclusive, because we are talking about mobility, we are talking about combining our capacities, and this should be also realized in real terms, not on the paper, not on just wishful thinking, but we need to see some outcome out of these serious threats.
Okay. I want to, Stephen, you want to reply really quickly?
Yeah, I would just agree with a lot of what Mehmet's just said. This is crucial when we're looking at European security. Firstly, that NATO is, of course, a transatlantic alliance. It is absolutely crucial that we recognise the important and crucial role that the United States has played and will continue to play, and indeed Canada too, and I've been meeting with Canadian colleagues too. So European and Euro-Atlantic security are indivisible in my view, and President Trump's been very, very clear about the unity of NATO and of Article 5. Secondly, I would agree with what's been said about the importance of the cooperation with the EU. I think, in practice, of course, UK and Turkey are working together in KFOR in the Western Balkans. Of course, we have many capabilities which we can use together. We have expertise. We know ourselves and our Ukrainian friends, our expertise in drone technologies and anti-drone technologies and the very real lived experience that Ukraine is having right now. That is going to be crucial to European security and defence for the future, and also not even just in the defence space, but actually in terms of the civilian applications too, and the benefits for our economies. So it is crucial that when we're thinking about this and we're thinking about the structures that we have, the involvement of others is part of that. We're already doing a lot of that in practice, but it needs to be part going forward. So I would very much second what Mehmet said.
Okay. Mr. Kolomini, please. The Deputy Minister was saying that security needs to be collective and it needs to be all-inclusive. Given the fact that you're concentrating on the eastern flank, I'm wondering if you could talk about some of how you're recalibrating NATO's strategy when it comes to addressing emerging threats in other parts of the world, North Africa, Middle East.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on a couple of things that the Deputy Minister said and that the British Minister emphasized. First, we need to be as inclusive as possible. We've been saying that all along. I think one major topic for NATO lately has been also defense industry. I think we have to be as inclusive as possible. I don't think we can afford, with the level of challenges and threats that we have to confront, that we don't take seriously security and security actors. That means that security actors that are relevant for us, and many of them are sitting in this panel, should be part of the work we do altogether. I think it's important that the European Union also understands that, and we are trying to work, and we're working very well with the European Union, NATO, and EU is a big strand of work. On the second topic, in Washington last summit, our heads of state decided to approve an action plan for the southern neighborhood. Only a week after that, I was appointed as the first ever special representative for the southern neighborhood of NATO. And that comes from the conviction that NATO needed to engage more, better, in a deeper way with our southern neighborhood. We have 11 partners in the south, but also many other countries that we talk with. And that's why I think that a fora like this one have particular value. It connects very well with the work we do and the work we need to do to be able to speak with foreign ministers from Africa, from the Gulf, from the Middle East. We have lots of things to share. Many of the challenges and threats that we see are the same. We have geostrategic competition coming from the South, very clearly present in the South. Of course, the most immediate threat that we see from NATO is Russia. We've been very clear about it. But the second asymmetric threat that is considered as such is terrorism. And that is basically placed in the south. And we also see, as I said before, geostrategic competition in the south. We see Russia in the south, somehow in a different way. China is also in the south. We see the behavior that is creating instability from Iran. So we have lots of things that we need to work with our friends in the southern neighborhood. And that was the conviction that the heads of state had when they approved this action plan. And that is the new approach that NATO will have with regard to the south and the global south in general.
Okay. I know that you're pressed for time. You have 4 minutes to go. You can leave whenever you want, but I'd like to turn to our Ukrainian minister as well. When you look at sort of the West's military assistance strategy, do you feel that it's deterrence? Do you think it's victory? What should it be, is what I'm essentially trying to ask.
First of all, to strengthen our position, to strengthen our future negotiation position, to increase our self-sufficiency. You see, after 24th of February, lesson learned, and we understood that we should not depend on the supply of critical weaponries from our partners. So after the beginning of this Russian brutal aggression, we scaled up our defense industry productions more than 6 times. Now we can produce up to 6 million drones by our own capacities. You mentioned deterrence package. Yes, it is really important to raise the price for Russians of the further aggressions. That's really important. And also I would like to add one very important remark with regard of our Euro-Atlantic aspirations. Ukrainian membership in NATO should not be off the agenda. That's about transatlantic security. That's about our contribution. Ukraine now has 110 brigades with daily combat experience. And of course, it will be a realistic, true contribution in a future transatlantic security. And by the way, the most cheapest one.
Maybe one last question to you. Ukraine should not be off the table in terms of membership. In terms of NATO's strategic vision, how do you balance expansion and the current situation, the realities of the current situation?
Well, first, we don't like very much expansion as a word. We don't chase anyone, as the Ukrainian friends know. Is actually hard to get into NATO. Is a process that is driven by our partners. Based on the desires of our partners, which is the case of the Ukrainians. Our strategic, the vision is exactly the same as the foreign minister said, is not at all off the table. Then there is a negotiation track, that's a different thing, but in our vision as how NATO could enlarge, of course we said it very clearly in Washington, and we stand by what we said in Washington. It is an irreversible path, and we will continue to work with our Ukrainian friends toward their Euro-Atlantic aspirations and integration.
Okay.
One more remark. Yes, we could not have consensus now among us, among allies, but no third country has a right of veto.
Exactly.
No third country could block our aspirations to become a member of any union or of any allies. Okay. That's important.
Again, another fundamental point that goes back to the Helsinki Final Act, right? It's about our own choices, own destinies, and completely concur with what our colleagues have said.
Okay, Minister, you want to chime in?
Yes, and of course, and having in mind that Croatia had the same situation like Ukraine has right now. So we were also victim of aggression, and Croatia was among the first country to assist, to help, we understood from the very beginning. We were so many times in Kiev, in Bucha, and we know that there is graves, massive graves, and killings of the people and civilians and so on. And of course, what we wanted we also want Ukraine. Peace and stability. Could you imagine that after the collapse of bipolar system, and we mentioned the Helsinki Act, it's generous that 1975, all the countries from Vladivostok to Vancouver united themselves, also like-minded and non-like countries, neutral countries plus non-aligned countries, democracy and non-democracy. And how is possible now, after the collapse of bipolar system, we hoped enthusiastically the new era is coming, and new world order based on rule is something that is for us, only for our citizens, for our people. You mentioned the the neighborhood. Also, Indo-Pacific area is also very important. Our like-minded countries, partners. And we are also affected, for example, through the Red Sea crisis as well. It's far, probably physically far from us, but we are indirectly affected. When it comes to Ukraine, of course, and there's not place for aggression. Otherwise, what is with our security? So we should be united around our values. Only our values is a guarantee for peace and stability. And that is something that so we have to be on the same right page of the history. It's on our Ukrainian friends. Ukraine defends not only their territorial integrity, their sovereignty, their independence, also they are defending our European security.
Okay. Maybe I think it's time to, I was going to come to you, but maybe you want to, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment two of the recent interventions. So first of all, of course, it is clear that we support Ukraine. It is a victim of a brutal aggression, and we want to, so of course, stand by you and stand on the right side of history and on the right side of UN Charter, of course. But also, you mentioned the southern neighborhood, and it is clear that in NATO we are committed to a 360 degrees approach, and unfortunately, the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine didn't make the other concerns and threats vanish away. So we are still around, we still have many other conflicts and tensions and threats to address. But of course, this is not only about military capabilities, and as Foreign Minister mentioned, so there are many other things as well. And I think that OSCE, among others, is one platform where we can have this more comprehensive approach to security, also in terms of enhancing democracy, fundamental values, the respect for human rights. And we also, these days, we really need to pay attention to the link of economy, technology and security, and how they are intertwined, and this kind of makes us also globally very interconnected to other, let's say, threat theaters.
Since you mentioned the OSCE, I'm wondering if you can sort of talk to me outside of the NATO-EU nexus in terms of sort of Finland supporting initiatives that would sort of increase European security in terms of what the OSCE can do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry.
Please join me in actually thanking Mr. Javier Codemina Perez. He has a plane to catch. Thank you for your participation.
Yeah. First of all, the starting point, as Foreign Minister mentioned, so the then CSCE was not created among like-minded countries. It was created between two blocs that were very much, there was a lot of tension between these blocks, and still we were able to find an agreement on the Helsinki Final Act, and then later on we created quite a comprehensive set of confidence-building measures, different mechanisms for a safer, a more stable, more prosperous Europe. And I think we should really explore to the fullest also these other possibilities, and during our presidency or chairmanship now in the OSCE this year, so we are paying a lot of attention to resilience of the societies. This also means the capabilities to address different hybrid threats, to build societies that can that build on their strengths, where the civil society is strong, where the democratic rules are respected, and so on. And I think this is like a joint endeavor for the whole OSCE area.
Mm-hmm. Stephen?
I mean, I concur with the points about the OSCE and the importance of their work going forward. And of course, they do crucially important work on media freedoms, on election monitoring, on national minorities, and other important work too. And I think that's really important that we remember that. And it was a pleasure to meet with the new Secretary General yesterday. Of course, is a well-known figure in these parts. But I think it's worth broadening out to also some other topics. I think it's important understanding some of the other threats to security that we see, where there are interlinkages to what is happening. So particularly I do a lot of work with our Foreign Secretary on sanctions, and we've seen huge attempts to circumvent those, the Russian shadow fleet that we've taken significant action on with partners. But of course, that shadow fleet not only is helping fuel the aggression against Ukraine, it's also presenting an environmental threat around the world. The illicit financiers who are also financing Russia's aggression against Ukraine are also involved in organised crime and activities around the world, and that's why our Foreign Secretary and myself and others have really tried to drive forward on tackling illicit finance and kleptocrats and those who seek to undermine all of our societies, because of course they're the ones who are also taking wealth out of countries in Africa, in Asia, and fueling aggression, fueling criminality, fueling people trafficking, irregular migration, which of course is a huge challenge that we're all engaged in. So I think it's worth understanding the security threats that we face in a much broader sense, and again, that this is not just about European security, transatlantic security, it's about global security. And it's very important that we expose those linkages and that we work on them together.
Mr. Minister, since we're sort of maybe shifting gears and maybe
Yes, and first of all, not only, but malign influence from certain countries as well. It's also a threat. And we would not, there are the classic position that we didn't expect it and in 21st century, but so hybrid and climate changes as well. Actually, and also the came by human beings and some politics and so on. Umbrella. So security, European security, actually, so probably it's a little bit idealistically, but we should be united in the same values as, because we are simple citizens. They want to live in peace and stability. Only what they want is that. What is my salary, and do you have some, I'm safe or I'm not safe, and we have to follow actually the just desire coming from nature of every human beings. And there is a responsibility of the politicians and in the 21st century just to answer them. And we have to build or rebuild institution that will prevent any kind of such an influence. Either be it an aggression, so military aggression. We didn't expect that, so we will have we have to be more prepared and to increase our budget in defense, technological, industrial base, and so on. It was not visible and not predictable that we meant that, so we created idealistically in the European Union or even the world based on the international law. And something, and of course now we have this situation now. We face the threats, we face aggression. We have to be more focused, and in the focus of our attention must be on how to increase our defense. But together with the United States and among the NATO and European Union to work together is something that it is interconnected. And of course, it's good that we have this discussion today in Antalya Diplomacy Forum. It's my second time being here, and I also would like to express my gratitude to Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan to having invited me. And of course, we are here to send a message of the peace, of stability, because it is in our responsibility. We are for that nominated as foreign minister and so on. And so I see the better world. However, I am optimistic in this regard, and so I call on for example, de-escalation in our very vibrant also neighborhood. So in Croatia, we are bordering the interesting the areas, and it is Western Balkans. There is also we see the malign influence from certain countries, and the whole countries in the Western Balkans are candidate countries for membership in the European Union.
And I know that you had conversations with your Bosnian counterparts.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will have, thanks also to we keep tradition, and this last year we had a trilateral meeting in Dubrovnik during the Dubrovnik Forum, and now our host is Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. You know, it's a responsibility. We work together with Bosnia and Herzegovina, Turkey, and Croatia. It is in our interest to have a stable, functional, prosperous Bosnia and Herzegovina. But in order to get it, the magic formula is missing. Magic formula, namely the power sharing mechanism, is necessary to create it. Having in mind that Bosnia and Herzegovina is a multinational country, it's miniature, like Belgium, Switzerland, or to some extent North Ireland. And Bosnia and Herzegovina is a country of 3 constituent peoples and others. But every constituent people should have the same rights by voting and to be voting and to have their political representatives.
Okay. Deputy Minister Bozay, if I could maybe ask you in terms of the role that your country, Turkey, can play in terms of European strategic autonomy discussions. You were answering that when it comes to security, it's collective, it's all-inclusive. Yeah. Is Turkey inside or alongside? What type of hall at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, the 360. If I could kindly ask you to make your way in, take your seats. I know members of the press, I know you want to take some photos and some videos, and as soon as you're done with that, we'll get started. We're running behind schedule. The problem with these types of things is there's a domino effect, and we have to stick to our time. Okay, I think we can begin. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to this pivotal session.
It's also a security matter.
Yeah.
And also when we had the war, the grain scarcity caused increase of wheat price 37% all around the world in 3 days. In Africa, it wasn't easy to have bread anymore. And then this grain deal of Turkey was also an addition. It means that, as Javier mentioned, food security is important. And this is why when we say there is this holistic or indivisible security, it has two dimensions. One is to include all the actors, and also not to make any actor like just a gatekeeper for defense or military. It should be included, and every actor should be included in the economic security, in the ecosystem of the welfare of and stability of Europe as a continent. And here, Turkey is ready to play and willing to play any role, because we are open to it. We are also trusting our competitiveness in all sectors. The second biggest army of NATO. We have a highest capacity, but we are also a big nation with 85 million market and also having some competitive production. And we are ready to participate, and we would like to have cooperation in Europe with the EU, with the Southeastern European countries, Balkans, to go to the wider region. We have 44 embassies in Africa, and we would like to go together with UK, with Norway, with EU, to Africa to do business there. Because if you don't have the R&D and innovation know-how in that continent, there will be illegal migration due to the, as distinguished minister mentioned, because of the climate change, because of the disadvantage of those regions. We should have a
European security. Oh. Capabilities as well. The role that you want to see your country play post 2025 in terms of European security.
Price of the war. If we don't end this war in fair manner, if we don't achieve just and comprehensive
Okay, stop, rewind. Welcome to this pivotal session, European security at a critical juncture. This year, 2025, marks a half-century since the Helsinki Final Act, which is a landmark that anchored the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the peaceful cooperation in Europe. Yet, when we look at it 50 years on, the very principles that I just talked about are being tested in some unprecedented ways. As the war in Ukraine continues, and with uncertain prospects of a ceasefire and a resolution, we confront a rapidly shifting security landscape. NATO remains...
today.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in actually thanking our distinguished guests, ministers, deputy ministers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this engaging conversation. We hope you enjoy the rest of your time here at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Thank you. The bedrock of European security and the vital transatlantic link, while the European Union has taken significant steps to deepen its role. And this is reflected most recently in its newly released white paper on security.